This is our COVID Roundup and CDC update for September 13th, 2024. Starting off by looking at the NWSS program. For those wastewater facilities at or near the highest levels they've ever recorded, it's dropped from about 24% down to 22%. And for those at very high levels, it's dropped down from 70% down to 62%, demonstrating some minor easing in the wastewater levels across the US. As a quick aside, the percentages I just gave you are the percent of total wastewater facilities in the US that are being monitored for COVID. Something to also note is that there's 1,464 facilities, but currently only 1,313 are reporting. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, as we're starting to see degradation in our wastewater surveillance services. For example, it seems like New York State lost 33 wastewater facilities in their reporting, and Colorado, for example, has lost 2/3 of their facilities, which corresponds to about 34 facilities that were lost. Next, moving on to our COVID genetic surveillance program, we see that KP3.1.1 has continued to increase, making up greater than half of all variants in circulation at this time, while other variants like KP2.3, LB1, KP3, and KP2 are all starting to decrease. This is completely in line with what our neighbor Canada is showing. They've had continual increases in KP3.1.1, where currently it's making up about 66% of all variants in proportion. And when we look to Mike Honey's tracker, we see that globally KP3.1.1 is continuing to increase around the world, where we're seeing general increases in all countries that are monitoring it. Next, moving on to Raj's COVID variant tracking, where it's important to note that recombinant lineage of XEC, which is a combination of the FLIRT and the D-Fluke or D-Sluke variants, has finally emerged. When we look at the general changes between the two reporting periods, we see that there are decreases in KP2 and LB1, with large increases in the KP3 family, specifically for KP3.1.1, minor increases in KP1.1.3, and we're just throwing XEC on the board right now. Looking back over to Mike Honey, he gives us an update on XEC, where it is showing strong growth in Denmark and Germany, as well as in the UK and the Netherlands right now, where we're starting to see strong signals of increases. Even in the US, which is this lime green over here, which makes it very likely that XEC is going to be our predominant winter variant, making it very probable that it'll overtake KP3.1.1 in the coming months. Moving on to our New York State wastewater. As a reminder, anything that is dark blue is low levels of COVID in the wastewater, anything that is light blue is moderate levels, and anything from yellow to bright red is high levels of COVID in the wastewater. Notably, there's been pretty sharp declines in the wastewater level, dropping from about 98% at the highest levels down to about 83%. However, there are still very many facilities that are reporting at the highest levels. Moving on to our 28 reporting facilities to wastewater scan in California. And what we're starting to see is an increase in the wastewater levels once more. I would say that this is going to mark the start of our winter wave, meaning that there is a minor crash between our summer and winter waves. But regardless, I would call this the start of the winter wave and the quote-unquote end of the summer wave, despite there now being some overlap between the two. Finally, moving over to the 148 wastewater facilities reporting across the US to wastewater scan, we're starting to see the same thing that I mentioned, where it looks like we're starting right back up again, and I personally believe this marks the start of our winter season, of our winter wave, meaning that it doesn't look like we're going to get any reprieve this year between the summer and winter waves.